Welcome back everyone, and today I'm starting on an animatronic version of one of Nintendo's most recognizable characters, Kirby. Now he's not my personal favorite Nintendo character, but he is definitely one of the most fascinating and longest running. Kirby first appeared in Kirby's Dream Land on Game Boy on April 27, 1992, and since then he's been a gaming icon. So for today, we'll just be working on designing and building Kirby's shell. The main feature I want for Kirby to have is to be able to blow air using a powerful fan and a motion sensor to activate it. So when someone walks in front of him, the fan will activate, producing a gust of air. I'm also planning a rear panel for air intake and access to all the mechanics inside him. I might add a moving mouth, but that's still undecided. His eyes, however, will definitely be able to move in all directions and light up. And finally, I want him to be able to tilt forward and back on his toes, enabling the fan to point up or down. In Shaper 3D, I based Kirby's body or design on a simple sphere. He's one of the simpler models I've designed. There's not many fine details, so the design came together pretty quickly. The tricky part will be the eye mechanism, since Kirby's eyes aren't just simple circles. You might notice that the shoes in my model don't match the ones in my thumbnail. I'll explain that in a future video. And the rear panel will be printed separately since it will need to be able to properly open and close. I think this is a good stopping point here though, and it looks just like Kirby to me. Next, I moved into Mesh Mixer to cut the design into multiple pieces for 3D printing. I ended up slicing the model into 8 pieces. The way my cuts were made, I should be able to print each piece with less support in a shorter time period. The size I want Kirby to be reassembled is 18 inches arm to arm and around 24 inches from his feet to the tip of his arms. I didn't add any male or female joints this time, but the seams will be glued later down the road. The bigger pieces will be printed on my Ender 3 Max Neo, while any smaller ones will be printed later on my Ender 3 Pro. After all the parts were cut, it's time to send them to our slicer and prepare them for printing. Today I'll be using Cura to set up our print files. I imported and separated all the STL files, checking each piece's dimensions so nothing came out mismatched. This step is critical when printing large models on smaller printers because you want to maximize the print size without exceeding the print bed limits. That also means each piece's size is maintained relative to all the others so no part is the wrong size during assembly. Once all my files have been scaled up or down at once, and each piece fits on the bed, we're ready to print them all one by one. After printing all 8 pieces, I gave each one a thorough sanding with 120 grit sandpaper on my Orbit sander. I worked over the inside and outside surfaces evenly, but I also paid attention to the connection points. Those seams need to be a bit rough for the glue to bond effectively. Kirby's rounded design meant I could rely on my power sanders for the bulk of the work without worrying too much about damaging sharp details. The sander made quick work of the rough edges, but I still checked each piece by hand to catch anything I may have missed with the sander. Once the major sanding is done, I'll switch to a finer grip before painting, ensuring the surface is perfectly smooth and free of even the smallest ridges. That extra prep will make the paint job pop and help the final piece look more professional. One of the big advantages of printing in separate parts is how much easier it makes sanding and removing support material. You can hold each piece at the right angle and get spots you'd never reach on a fully assembled print. Of course, the trade-off is when it's time to put the whole thing back together, the seams have to line up with almost surgical precision, and there's no room for sloppy alignment if you want it to look like a single flawless piece. To begin my gluing process, my go-to adhesive is Gorilla Glue Gel, specifically the one with the green cap, because it strikes the perfect balance between strength and precision. The gel consistency means it doesn't run or drip, which is a lifesaver when working with curved pieces like I am. Since I roughed up our edges earlier that needed to be glued, the extra texture gives the glue more surface to grip, helping create a bond that can stand up to handling over time. Once everything was prepped, I moved fast. Gorilla Glue gel starts to set in as little as 10 seconds and can fully set in under a minute, so there's no luxury for slow adjustments. Each joint had to be aligned the first time or I'd risk trying to break the bond to fix it. Some of the printed parts had a slight warp from the printing process, but nothing too dramatic, but enough to leave a gap if ignored. To fix that, I used small clamps to draw the edges flush, holding them until the glue fully cured. The final two back panels were glued together off camera, but the process was the same: prep, align, clamp, and let the adhesive work its magic. By the time everything was assembled, I had gone through almost 3 full bottles of glue, which is proof that even a simple design can be surprisingly hungry for materials when you're aiming for a seamless finish. To wrap up this video, I gave the entire assembled structure a generous coat of filler primer. As it seeps into tiny gaps, it builds up over the print lines. This particular type is designed for automotive bodywork, where even the smallest imperfection shows under glossy paint, but it works just as well for smoothing out the fine ridges and lines left behind my 3D printer. This first application is only the beginning. Once it's fully cured, I'll sand the surface down and remove any visible layer lines and knock back the high spots before spraying another coat. I'll repeat this cycle, prime, sand, and respray until there isn't a single blemish, seam, or ripple left. It's a slow process, but one I've learned to trust. By the end, the surface will be so smooth and uniform that you'd never guess that it started as a handful of plastic prints off a printer. That's where we're leaving off for now, and next time we'll move further into assembly and mechanical integration. Kirby is literally starting to take shape. Thank you everybody for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you think so far of my animatronic Kirby, and I'll be back with another video as soon as possible. Thanks.